Alright, we are back at it with the M37 from Resident Evil 7. So, we're still working on the internal bits here. I haven't quite figured out how exactly I want to do this yet. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of little bits inside of a very tight area. But I think what I want to do is at least seal this up, because I feel like we're going to need this support, how little it's going to be anyway. Let's go ahead and hide these pieces. Well, actually want that. Let's go ahead and put faces on these areas again. Not sure why we have that guy. I'm going to go ahead and delete him. And in order to put a face here, let's go over here and use X-ray. Then I'll click on all these vertices here, and then we'll just hit face. So you got that going. Let me get rid of these edge links up here. Oop. And then we can do the same thing up here. X-ray. Let's click on all these. And not this. Or these. Oh, that's that. And then we will Alt left click on that area and hit F. Now we got our face. And I want to put a hole in here so the steel rod can pierce through. So in order to do that, we're going to take this circle, since we already got this shape. Trying to Alt left click to get out of there all day. There we go. Alt shift left click and then Shift D to do. Well, we got an extra bit. Alright, let's just do it manually. There we go. And Shift D. And then we're going to un-auto merge. I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Let's see where we are. Take these opposite ends and then these hopefully opposite ends. Then we'll get edge links back on. And over here we got 3.75. So this is going to have to be 0.5 more. So 4.25. 4.25, and I'll give it just a tiny bit more, so we'll go up to 4.3. That should be a pretty snug fit. And then we'll hit P, separate selection, and then we'll get this guy, our main part, into edit mode. Then we'll control left click on the circle that we just made, and then we will mesh, knife project, and no cut through since we just want to go through that area. So now we got our hole, and we can hide this guy now. Get in here, let's get rid of that edge. And now we have this hole that we can create, and I guess we'll just draw it back here. G, Y, turn on snap, extrude, G, Y, and snap it back there. Which doesn't look like, yeah, it does look like we have a wall here. Could get through that with another knife project. Let's go ahead and Shift D to duplicate, GY to pull it a little back, and then we'll hit P to separate the selection. And then what we'll do is hide all of this back here. I'm going to go into X-ray mode, take all of this so it's not interfering when we do our visual orientation, hide. And so when we do this, it's not in the way. And there's that circle. It's main one. Alright, so let's get this guy in edit mode and then control left click on our circle so it's red in there. And then with this orientation from directly behind, we use mesh, knife project, cutting through that. Hit period on the numpad to zoom in what we're working on. Let me hide this for a moment. And then let's clear this out. Shift left clicking on these edges, X to delete, And then we have our two holes here. We could subdivide that one and snap it over. And do the same for this one. Snap that over, and then we can get auto merge. Well, you know what? Let's get rid of this circle. Then we can just bridge the edge loops the best we can. What is this? It's just a loose vertex. And we'll get these two getting into edge mode. Right click, bridge those edge loops. It's a little wonky looking, but I don't think it'll interfere with all that much. Okay, let's Alt H to unhide everything. And thinking we need to finish this cavity here. So now that we have this area, this one is just going to be kind of open, right? Let's go into X-ray. You know what? Let's hide this outer shell just to make it a little easier to see what we're working on. Whoops. Get our circle select with C, and then I'll click all these outer faces. Then I'm going to hit H to hide. Okay, so we definitely need to seal this up. So that's surrounded, right? This seems to have different number of vertices than this. Is that gonna matter all that much though? Let me see. Let's extrude GY, snap that over here. Does that go to any vertex? It does. It goes right to that one. So we can snap those. Let's merge. We'll do the same over here. GY, oops. Let's extrude GY, snap that on over there. Now we can maybe add, how many edges do we have over here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vertices. And we just have 2 over here, so I guess we can subdivide this by 2. Well, you know what? Let's get rid of these edges, actually. And then we can just pull this, extrude GY over here. And that'll give us, whoop, did that look weird? That's the only line, right? Yeah. So it should be fine. Should be fine. And we got that, and then we can close this up, I think. I mean, could just make that a whole rectangle. Does this need to be lined up? It's looking okay on this side. Let's do the same over here. Get rid of those 2 vertices. Oh. Why do you exist? But it doesn't look like you exist over here. Or do you? Well, either way, let's collect these guys, extrude, right click, GY, and I got this one. GY, snap over here. We could seal these up, and then seal this. Right. What is going on with you? Do you have an equivalent over here? You do not. So why do you exist? I'm gonna dissolve that vertex. Oh, I'm gonna try to dissolve that vertex. I hope I didn't just screw something up. So we have this inner cavity, I think, at this point. Let's hide this bit. So that's gonna be open. That's gonna, ooh, how are we gonna fit this in here? Hmm, does it fit? Did I already check on this? It looks like it might just slot in there. So that might be okay. Now, since this is going to be on a hinge, since it's going to swing like that, so we can put our shell in here and then come back down, we're probably going to need to put a trigger hinge-like thing over there. We still need to finish this up. So what I want to do, still kind of working on this inner cavity. Uh, bu- bu- bum. Hmm, I think the plan was for this to be our ramp. So we don't need one on the main, since this is going to be our ramp. So when the spring pulls back, ideally it will flex and push our shell upward, and the whole pump action will open a little door or the exit breach, and if hopefully with enough force it'll fly out. Hopefully. So in order to get that going, what do we need to do? So one of the first things is probably going to be block off the shell from moving too far back here, because we don't want it to get stuck over here. Which means the breech paddle thing doesn't need to be that long, which is good. So let's say it only goes out to around here. Right, so maybe we can shrink this down a bit. Let's pull this back over here. Is that what I wanted to do? Um, hmm. Well, we can't have it all the way up there because these bits are going to be in the way. So let's get that paddle back in edit mode. And then we can, I'm going to hit L on that so we can select all of it. I'm going to deselect all of this. And it needs to at least be back here, right? So it needs to be behind that. Otherwise it'll just bump into it. Now, though, that I think we have this inner cavity more or less figured out, so we have that. I think we can finally put the breaching port on there. You know what, we could probably just simplify this. Let's just give it a big old square. Is that connected? No, I don't think so. Alright. We don't need any of those other ones. You know what? I'm just gonna do this. Selecting all these outer edges. And hitting F on that just to simplify it. So when we knife project, hopefully it won't be too complicated. Won't get too confused. Pretty sure that is the right one. And Alt H to unhide, and then I think we can finally put this door on there. So with main and edit mode, and then control left click on this bit, use mesh, knife project, cut through, even though we don't need it over there. It's alright. Let's go ahead and hide you. You have done your duty. And let's clear it out. I think that is it. Get rid of those edges. Do the same for the inner one. Um, hmm. Seems like it's a bit further in. Let's Control Z. Since it does have that curve, we might have to use a different facing, like maybe up here to cut that breach in there. So I'm going to hit Shift 7, numpad 7 to get this camera angle. And then we're going to try the same thing. Control, there we go. So we're going to try that knife project again. Alright, and see how that works. Let's get our camera reoriented. What is it? Control 0? And we are upside down. There we go. Okay, we definitely don't need that. That'll be easy enough to deal with though. Now we got it over here. Is that too low? It seems too low now. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Undo that. Okay, so I'm gonna lift this guy up a bit. Maybe even... Oop. Let's get rid of that reference for now. Edit. Hide. And then let's go median point. I'm gonna right click, origin to geometry over here. Put this up here. And then maybe, that's not what I want. And maybe if we take this face, Shift 7, let's try this again. So edit mode for our main, and then control, left click, this guy, mesh, knife project, control 0 after we click on that, period, numpad period, and now it seems way too high. Yeah. Control Z. I think this is mostly just a guessing game at this point. But let's try to lower this a bit. Let's maybe try this. Try this. See what that's looking like. Mesh, cut through. Control 0, period. Rolling around the mouse. Didn't cut through that for some reason. I think that's too high now. I guess we can try it again. Let's try moving this down a little bit. And down here, Shift 7. I think that'd still be too high. So bring it down a bit more. And Control, Shift 7, Control left click on you, Mesh, Knife Project. Control 0, numpad period. I think that might finally have it. Or at least good enough. Let's hide this. See how we did over here. It's not looking too bad. Let's test it out. We should have a point. Let's clean this up. I guess we should include these. Face on that, and now let's get rid of all these edges. C for circle select, left click, one more, and X. Delete edges. Not sure why that got deleted. I guess that's fine. Let's get rid of these inner edges then. And that, I think, is going to look a bit better than what we originally had. Let's get rid of those edges and this. Wait. I think we got rid of a little too much, yeah. Still need these guys. And X, delete edges. Then we can take these edge loops, hopefully. Not that one. And we're not going to be able to select them too easily. Unfortunate, unfortunate. Oh well. Looks like we lost some more faces over here. Let's try to get these back. Make those correspond. Seal up those guys. And we seem to have lost this face as well. It's okay. So we're gonna go in here, X-ray mode. Let's go ahead and hit A, Shift and recalculate those normals because I was noticing some discoloration. We'll just go around and circle select all of these. Let's get rid of edge links for a moment. That's pretty sure that got them all. Okay, let's bridge those edge loops. So now we have our port. A little messy, but I think it will serve its purpose. And then we can bring back our paddle, wherever that is. It's parented to one of these things, right? Palm, there it is, breech paddle. Oop. And now, with that, should have an open and closing breech. Oh, very nice. Okay, okay. We got that going. Let's see if it can fit in there. That is the problem. Like, how is this door gonna be fitting in there? Because it's gonna have to go inside our open breech. Let's see if that's even possible. Set origin to geometry. And y'all don't have to do this. I'm just checking to see if we can squeeze this in here. It's gonna have to go in there. And there. And we could probably flip it like so. And, this whole area is gonna be empty until we put this in here. So it could go down there. And then we'd have to, adjust it while it's in there like this, and then we'd have to thread the steel rod through here and into this whole thing. That's what I'm worried about, is actually getting everything to fit that way. But with this being clear, it might fit. So that's as long as that can really be. But we could shorten this just a little bit, just to give us a little more room to play around with. So I'm going to take this and shorten it just a wee bit. I mean, we won't know for sure until we start printing, but might as well check these things. Oh, and we'll definitely need a place for this to fit back in here, like a little slot for it. So we're gonna need some space back here for the back of our rampy bit, which is currently hidden. Where are ya? That's the steel rod, under barrel, breech load ramp, there it is. And so this will need to be emptied out, just a little bit back here, enough for the spring. So we should probably start thinking about how we're gonna do that. So this back piece, should it be solid? I think solid's probably the way to go. We can pull this back. We'll need to adjust this ramp a bit, but for now, let's pull this over here. And let's go ahead and turn that into its face. And then from here, we'll need a couple of things. I'm going to extrude G, GY to bring it back a bit, and then, need a place for that hinge. Firstly, I'm thinking what shape this should be. Should it be, I think it'll need to be, well, flat down here because we need a shelf for our spring and a little place for it to perch. And then we'll need a bit out here to hook on to said spring, and then we'll also need the pivot point, which will be down here-ish. So it can move along that point and press down on our spring. It should be up here. But then if that's like that, then having the spring right here would be very awkward. Probably ought to put it up here, which means the shelf would have to be up there too. So let's see, how do I want to do that? Thinking F3, cursor to active, Shift A, Then I'll put a plane here. Let's say that's 10 millimeters. And then we will rotate along the R to rotate along the x-axis. We'll put this over here, 90 degrees. And then we'll lift this up a bit and then shrink it. Let's go back to medium point for our pivot. And then I'll GY, move that a little bit, and then P, separate selection, because I want to knife project that. Trying to select the ramp again. There it is. Control, wait, ramp, edit mode, and then control. There we go. Then let's mesh, knife project. Don't need to cut through this time. And then we can E to extrude, and there's going to be our shelf. I'm going to right click, G, Y, pull it back straight. That doesn't look center to me. Let me check. G, X, extend that out. Let's get our edge links on. E, G, X, over here. It definitely isn't. Why are they different? Oh, they should be even. And I do not like that they are not. So what we're probably going to do is go ahead and hide this. And I think I'm going to try to get this to mirror. So we're going to need, ooh, that's definitely not even. I think this is the center point. Doesn't look like it though. Hey, this is the center. Oh, what happened to you? Okay, let's manually select these bits here. And we'll go into edge mode and deselect these just so we got those middle edges. And then we'll subdivide. That didn't want to subdivide. Let's do it manually. Oop. Maybe this is why. Let's dissolve those vertices. And I will select. So if this is the median point, let's go ahead and subdivide this to give us that point there. And I'm going to select all of these faces. Go back into vertices mode. Make this our active by clicking on it twice and then GX to move that to the center. And I'm going to get rid of this. And let's make a face over here. That's about half. Actually, let's get this, and, well, actually, we can go ahead and get this also. You know what? Let's just subdivide all of it. That's what we're going for anyway. Subdivide. Let's get rid of that. Face in there. Then we can get rid of this edge. Then we'll go for that center. And now we'll try to get a face on. I think That's about half. Get rid of that. Set a face in there. Those were just measuring holes, so we don't need those really. All right. This guy's gonna be in the way, but we can worry about that in a little bit. Let's go ahead and put a face on that. And then go to select, side of active. And let's go to the negative side on the X. Should be all those points, and then we will select invert, right click, delete vertices, so we got rid of half of that. Right, and now we'll go over to modifiers, add modifier, generate, mirror, and we're mirroring along the X. So that is fine. That is now half. Oop. Got a weird looking issue over here. Let's get rid of that face. That probably isn't perfect, but it should serve. No, I don't like that. Let's hide you and you. Let's check something here. Extrude upward. Yeah, we're definitely missing a bit up here. I guess we can just extrude GX, and then I'll take this in vertices and I'm going to say SX0 to flatten those out, and then we'll make this our active, and GX and snap it here. That should make this a straight face, right? Nope. Get rid of those two. That should make it a straight face. Yeah, straight line. Okay, and I think we can just seal that up. Okay. Alright. Alright, so we want a spring to come in here. So let me check the diameter of my springs. Pretty sure they're all pretty much the same. Let's see, it's getting dark. 6.8 for this one. So 6.8. Let's just give it 6.9, just so it can fit nicely. What are we gonna do? Cursor to active with this edge selected, and then we'll Shift A, make a circle. 6.9 divided by 2. Oops. So there's our circle, and rather than knife project, I'm just gonna create this guy. You're seeing double because it's mirrored. There we go. Boop. Why are we doing this? Okay, I'll manually do that then. There we go. Alright, deselected. Let's go ahead and extrude upward just a little bit to give the spring a little housing. I'll hit F to seal that up. So that's where the top spring is going to go. And now let's get the bottom, which is going to be in the main. So let's get that guy. Shift D. Right. Shift D to duplicate. Then we'll hit P, separate selection. I think we will knife project onto this one. So I'm going to hide that. Hit up in here. Oh, this is the part I was wondering about. So this is inside. Oh. Let's see if this is anything important. That's fine. For now. So this is going to be inside a... Wait. It's on the outside? Oh. So I guess this tunnel can extend back a bit. I don't think we'll need this. I think it'll be a flat space. And there's something not merged here. Looks like it. Let's snap that on. There we go. And if we don't need that, then I guess we don't need this either. So we should be able to get rid of this without causing any damage. Our model. Let's get rid of that. What is this even attached to? That's the inside. Okay, so I'm thinking we can seal this up. May need to push this back a bit. Perhaps. And these don't look like they're merged. Why aren't they merging? They just duplicates? This doesn't look like it has a place anywhere. Oh, boy. Right. Maybe we should clean this up. This is gonna be a bit of a problem. It's just gonna be annoying, actually. Let's get rid of all these. Then we can clean up this face. Let's get rid of all those. all those, I think. Then we could bridge those edge loops. That looks nicer. And we could probably do the same over here. Which wall is this connected to? Right, so we definitely don't need that. All this mess. From our knife project. It's a little worrisome, because where did that connect to? It's connecting back here. Oh, okay. Okay, let's get rid of that. Just so we can see things a bit. Let's hide those bits. And that's just kind of chilling. What is this attached to? Boom. I think these. Don't need that. Can be extruded and brought up to here. Let's see all of that. Let's go ahead and give this one another one. Subdividing GY. Snap that over here and just to fill in this face. Okay. That face. And then I don't think we need that. And which one is the very top? I think this one. These guys here. And we'll extrude GY, snap those over here. Auto merge got them. So that should be fine. And down here, we don't seem to have anything. So, this is about where we are on the other side. Let's get these, and then we can extrude GY, snap that over there. Those are all straight, right? Looks straight. Think get those guys. And put a face on that. That should finally give us some internals to work with. So Alt H to unhide. Let's see how we did. There's this face that needs to be filled, but this side's looking okay. Well, actually this one also needs to be filled. Let's see what you attach to. You can fill that in. That should be alright. And we have this going on this side. And these wasn't a straight line for us. Yeah, well, pretty sure they go straight down. So this could be a flat face. This one, this one. Is this already a face? It is. Alright, don't have to worry about that then. Just this here. Let's see. Okay, I think that seals it up. This chamber here. Okay, so now we can finally get back to our spring. Let's see. Hmm. I feel like we might need to push this back some. So those aren't connected, and that's fine. And I kind of want to get rid of this circular bit. Pretty sure that's not really connected to anything important. So let's go ahead and get rid of these just to simplify things. Right click, delete. I'll take this whole area, put a face on it. There. Okay, now we can move this back with GY. Further. And then, where's our ramp? Paddle. There's our ramp. Breach ramp. Okay, so we got that. And since the pivot point's going to be down here, let's go 3D cursor, like that. Means it won't have to move very far to fit that shell in, but seems like the spring's going to have to be in kind of an awkward place. Pretty much no matter what. So I guess kind of in the middle of those two positions. Where's my spring hole? I should really be more careful with naming these things. There it is. Okay. So I guess we can move this back just a bit. Maybe about halfway or so. And then can hide this. So get up in here. And definitely want to pull this up some. Let's get rid of these edges. So I just want about half of this. Subdivide. Yeah, maybe half. And where's this guy gonna go? Let's take off snap. In there. Let's take these, push this a bit over her. Maybe take these guys, and I'm gonna extrude upward. And then I hit SZ0 to flatten that out. Give us a bit more thickness to work with. And we're going to get our circle again. And bring it up here. I'll hopefully be in a good position. Let's see what happened to that face when I extruded. Let's redo that. So I'm pretty sure it got a little wonky. Let's get rid of these. And we're going to put the new face up here. There. And we don't really need these at all. Delete those. Should be fine. And let's hide the top of this. Hide, so when we knife project, that's not going to interfere and we don't have to cut through it. So edit mode for that, then breach hole, or our spring hole, and from this top point, knife project, and then we can extrude downward. Let's maybe snap it down here-ish. So that way our spring can sit in there, shouldn't go anywhere. And the the breach ramp spring hole should help hold it in place. Alt H to unhide. That's both of these selected. So it'll be a little off, but hopefully the spring will compress properly and hold in between those positions. Let's see, 17.6. And the spring I have is about 20 millimeters. I'd like it to be compressed a little bit, so I'm going to pull this downward. That way it doesn't try to jump out of that position. Let's see. 3D cursor. Now it's going to end up bumping around here, but maybe that'll be enough for the shell to get in. We could also bevel this a little bit like so. See if that's going to help. There's a little more room. I think the shell should more than fit into that breach, so that should be okay. I think that'll work for that component. And with that done, now I think we gotta figure out that slot for our paddle. I hit that, so let's bring that guy back. I think we need a slot for the whole thing. So with this whole bit selected, I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate. Then I'm going to bring it back a little bit. So, and then we're going to hit P, separate selection, and we can re-hide our paddle. Let's give us a little more visual room. Now this is going to be a little tricky. But we need a slot that's going to be almost exactly 0.5 millimeters larger in all directions from this. Um, mm, mm, mm. So I guess we could use this as a guide. this back portion here. I suppose we wouldn't. So let's subdivide this. Bring that. Let's hide all these pieces for a moment. And then let's also hide this front. So I get a better view of what we're doing here. So this can be down here. It's about the bottom. And let's turn off snap, that's getting annoying. And let's say it's one full millimeter down from that. And where's our paddle? And we can take this circle. Let's get rid of these points. Don't need all those. Shift D. And we'll hit P to separate the selection. Then we can take this guy. Add a measurement in there. It's about 7 millimeters. So let's enlarge this to, say, let's set medium point or as our pivot point. Say, let's just go up to 8 millimeters. Should be all right. And then we can maybe take this area here. And then we'll shift D on this as well. And then with hit P, separate selection. Now I think we can hide the whole paddle. Now that we have these lines. Then with that selected, I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then we're going to go down about a millimeter. There. And then let's go over about a millimeter. So I'll put this over here so we can measure that. Let's get snap on. And over about a millimeter. Right, so we got that going. I don't think we need that hole anymore. And let's join these two. Control J with both those selected. And then we can go ahead and snap that onto that one. Alright. And with that done, doesn't give us a ton of room over here. I don't know that we need it. So we'll put this over here. Then I think we will knife project. So with the main and edit mode, and we control left click on this weird shape we got, can go ahead and knife project that shape into there. Let's hide that. Now let's get rid of this edge. And I think this here. Get rid of that. And this as well. And then we can take this. I think we actually want to fill that in. Fill that in, get rid of these guys. Fill that in. Then I think we can take maybe just this face. That's the inside, yeah. Yeah. Um, do we need all of this? I think we might. Then we can extrude all this G, Y. Let's see how far back our panel goes. X-ray mode. We're going all the way back there. So this will also need to go all the way back there. GY. Let's snap it onto it. And then we need to go back a little bit more. Let's bring that up to... Okay, where were we? Need at least 0.5. So let's give it a little more room. Ain't gonna hurt anything. 61.5. So that should give us our slot that we need for this guy to fit through. Seems okay. Put a face on that. What is this? I don't think that's too important. So you got this. This. Yeah, that's the inner wall. Good. This is a little awkward. So let's Alt-H to unhide everything. And I don't know if that's going to be an issue. We could just snap it over there. Period. Don't think that's because that's still on the inside, so that shouldn't be a problem. So I think that's that. Then we have that slot. Whew-wee. Okay, I was hoping to have this finished today, and maybe that's it. Oh yeah, still need the pivot point. So let's get our ramp back. X-ray, we got a ramp. Now we gotta figure out where we want the pivot point. So far it's right there. Oh. And was that a great idea? Or what? Yeah, it's kind of bumping into that, so we can maybe bevel like we did up there, or considering we have this point here, thinking scale Z0 to flatten that out. And then we can take it down here while it's still kind of in the way. And so instead of all of them, maybe we can just squeeze these a bit. SZ0. And then we'll put them down here. Snap on. Oh, snap to that one. That way it has a bit more room to move. That shouldn't bump into the bottom anymore, hopefully. It's a curved piece, so it's a little tricky to predict. But I guess we will have to see. So let's go ahead and borrow this hole. That's in front of it, right? Yeah. We'll shift duplicate. Right click, set origin to geometry, so that's a little easier to follow. And we can go item. That's gonna take it to the center, isn't it? Yeah. Oh well. We can just do this by eye. Around there. And let's try to do our knife project and cut all the way through this beast. Where's that circle? It's on the inside. Let's drag it out with GX. And edit mode for this guy. Control left click for this guy. Mesh. Knife project. Cutting through. All the way through. Okay. So now let's clean out these holes. X-ray mode on. That out. Edges. Now let's connect these rings. Bridge edge loops. Let's get rid of those edge links. I got a nice hole there. And apparently didn't get everything. You, you, and you got kind of weird. Snap that over there, and that'll probably be fine. And then you also got weird. I'm gonna shift V to move along this edge. Let's get off a snap. Shift V. Try to center that more or less. It's not too big a deal. Bridge those edge loops. Now, a nice hole going through that we can use the steel rod to thread through and hold the main and the ramp. That also needs to be knife projected. So with that in edit mode, this guy on red, mesh, knife project. Then let's get in here, get rid of those. Get these circles selected, and this one's mirrored, so we'll just hit E to extrude, right click G, X, then we'll hit S, X, 0 to flatten that out. Then we'll hit G, X, and snap it to the center. Now we got our holes, so that should be okay. So that goes in there. Oh, yeah. This is going to have to be adjusted to fit our paddle thing. Oh, boy. Okay, I think I need a break. We've accomplished quite a bit today. I think the next one should be the last or very close to it. Alright, thanks for tuning in. And if you don't want to go through all this modeling, I do have the STL files needed to print all of my 3D printable props available to supporters over on my Patreon. We currently have over 40 props available and are adding more all the time. This prop will also be made available once it's finished. So if you'd like to skip the modeling and gain access to an entire armory of 3D printable props, check out my Patreon, link in the description. It is only $5 a month and you gain access to the entire armory of over 40 props. Staying a member ensures you get access to everything new added to the armory immediately and of course, very much helps support the channel. Speaking of supporting, we have to show our gratitude to M. John Simon, a real hero of the channel, supporting at the hero tier. Become a hero to get yourself special mention in these very videos, and as always, like and subscribe to ensure you never miss out on the next video. Until then, I have been Ken with Kenjutsu Bring It to Life, and I am out.